One of the most contentious topics in the history of heavy metal is metal's relationship to hip-hop. Few topics have created more controversy, more conversation, and more backlash than this. And so when I sat down with Scott Ian, the legendary guitarist of Anthrax, who famously collaborated with Public Enemy, I got a whole new perspective and realized that, maybe hip-hop and metal aren't so far apart after all. Here we go. Scott Ian, take one.
So I'm just kind of sitting here?
Yeah, just kind of on the stoop there. In the early 90s, you guys did something pretty important too with Bring the Noise. You mentioned that. Looking back at that moment, what do you think the significance of doing that was in terms of the history of metal or of music? What's the importance of that collaboration?
Well, if you want to bring up the fan thing now and people hating on us, I totally get it. Look, we grew up listening to hip hop. Charlie, Frankie, and I grew up in Queens and the Bronx. We were at the epicenter of that. I was listening to rap music since the time I was listening to rock music, since the 70s. Public Enemy became my favorite band, and all I ever wanted to do was figure out a way to work with Public Enemy. And when we recorded I'm the Man in like 85 or 86, and that blew up for us, which was something that was just a complete fucking inside joke and became so big, we opened our own door to be able to do Bring the Noise because we realized it's pretty cool. Our fucking audience went with this, and we can do it. We were able to stretch our boundaries of heavy metal and do that. And so Bring the Noise was our way to work together, with what was one of our favorite bands on the planet. Mm-hmm. And it was for no other reason than just wanting to work with Chuck. That was it. That's why we did it. If it never came out, whatever, at least I would have had this track with Chuck D rapping over my guitar tone. Something I always heard in my brain. My rhythm tone and Chuck D's voice were made for each other. And we made that happen. And then we took it further. We took it further than what Rick Rubin did with Aerosmith and Run DMC, which was amazing, but a complete novelty one-off. We decided, all right, we're gonna do this, but now let's take it further. Let's make a video, and now let's take it further. Let's do a world tour. Let's really fucking put our balls on the line and say, we know this is gonna be over a lot of people's heads, and we know a lot of the world is not ready for this yet, but we don't give a fuck. We're doing this for ourselves. We did it for the sheer enjoyment of getting to see each other every night. And that's where it came from. It was so organic, just out of the mutual respect and love for each other's music. And most of the world at the time came along for the ride. I'll tell you, in Germany, they fucking didn't get it at all. The metal kids, because you would see it. Public Enemy would be on, and they would have a lot of their audience, and you'd see a lot of our audience towards the back. We would come on, it would switch. And then at the end of the night, we would do Bring the Noise together. And it's kind of like you'd see 8,000 light bulbs go off over people's heads and go, wow, we get it. It made sense. I had a fucking really good time. Wow, okay, cool, it worked. Didn't work everywhere. Germany didn't work. Really no Public Enemy fans came out, and even had like white power skinheads showing up, like Nazis showing up, and kind of a bummer. But yeah, and then it certainly opened a big door because it was a big record. It was all over MTV. It was a big tour, and it certainly opened the door. And I can only speak from what people in other bands have said to me specifically, because people always say, you created rap rock or rap metal, all that shit that started in the 90s with Limp Bizkit and Korn and that whole sound or whatever, new metal. And I'm like, man, I can't take credit or blame because I don't believe it. There's so many other bands involved. Faith No More was doing rap, hip-hop type of stuff since the fucking inception of Faith No More. Come on, introduce yourself. And We Care a Lot. And Epic, of course, they obviously opened the door too. But I have had specific people tell me, guys in Linkin Park and guys in Rage Against the Machine tell me, what we did with Public Enemy inspired them to become a band. So, in those two instances, I can say, I know two specific instances where people said it meant so much to them, and it was when we want to do something like this, what you guys did. And at least if anything, then I could say I was partially responsible in some fucking microscopic way for Rage Against the Machine, because I think they took all their influences and, of course, turned it into their own thing, and they did it bigger and better than any other band of the 90s. Like, to me, they're the only one that was even, that I would even think about listening to.
This morning, I met with the producer of Rock of Love, and because something we're talking about in the glam metal episode is reality TV, especially for the glam guys, has been sort of, it seems, sort of a second kick at the can. We've got Bret Michaels, we've got C.C. DeVille, we've got Tommy Lee, we've got Sebastian Bach, we've got all these guys. What was your motivation for getting involved?
Oh, Supergroup.
Yeah, Supergroup, sorry, yeah.
It's funny, you mentioned Rock of Love. I got offered to go on that as a guest in the first or second season. I think the first season maybe. They called me, VH1 called me, because obviously I've had a pretty long relationship, basically for almost 9-10 years now with VH1, and I got a call, will you be a guest and you come on, you're going to judge a bunch of these stupid girls, they're going to try and write songs, and you and Brett are going to judge them. I was like, absolutely not. Are you fucking kidding me? I also got offered to do the Surreal Life, and I just passed. And they're like, why not? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I said, if I did the Surreal Life, I might as well just announce, just quit. I might as well just quit the band now because my career is over. And Supergroup, for me, on the other hand, was something that was not going to hurt. It was only going to help because I got to just do what I got to do. I got to just, put it this way, I could just be myself. I could just do what I would normally do and be me. I'm not going to put on an act. There's other people in the house who have way bigger personalities like Sebastian and Ted. I don't need to blow my own normal self up to compete with that. They'll do their thing, I'll do my thing. It'll be a good point counterpoint. And it was a music-based show. It's not some stupid shit with, where we're gonna have to go do stupid things and tasks and games and 50 sluts living in a house. Or we just got to hang out and jam, and they were really frustrated with us, the producers were, because really every day they would come to us with 20 jackass things for us to do and we would just say no. And that's probably why we didn't get a second season. But good, who cares? Because I'm not going to sell myself out in that way just because I'm on a TV show. I think I carried myself really well on that show. I was just me, hanging out. And with Ted Nugent, summer camp in Vegas with Ted Nugent for 2 weeks. It was amazing.
What's your opinion on why reality TV has become this big thing for a lot of these glam musicians like Brett and Cece and Tommy and so on?
Well, because they're bands, and I'm going to use this term, and it's not meant to be a negative. It may sound negative, but their career was a circus. Their bands were circuses. It's like, think about it. Motley Crue just did a fucking big tour recently. It was a circus. That's what they were about. It was just fucking, what's that word? What's that? Not bacchanalia, but
hedonism,
bacchanalia, just over the top, more is more, just a fucking circus, a fucking giant show. And these guys, they carry that in them. Bret Michaels is a showman. Tommy Lee is a showman. CeCe, these guys are showmen. They're entertainers. I am not that. I'm a fucking guy who plays guitar because I use the guitar as a tool to write songs. That's what I am. These guys are showmen. I'm not a showman. It's in their blood to do that. So that's why I think the connection works, why Bret Michaels was perfect to host Rock of Love, because that's what he was doing his whole career in Poison. He was hosting Rock of Love for 18,000 people a night at Poison shows. Now he's just doing it with, instead of 15,000 girls, he's got 20 in a house. So, they've just kind of boiled it down to me, to the bare essence of what that whole scene was about. All that scene was about was fucking girls. That's what that was about. So that's why these shows work for these guys, I guess.
We're doing an episode on grunge and placing it in the history of the evolution of metal music. And I agree with you when you talked about how Chris Cornell and some of the media sort of swept the metal under the rug, as it were. Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden for sure. Nirvana was maybe an exception. Definitely metal bands, in my opinion, as well. Why didn't people, especially the media, why didn't they just call them metal bands? Why did they create this other thing?
Because they needed something new. Because the media needed their new thing. This is like, it's now the 90s, and they needed something new to promote, to sell, to help sell magazines, to help get new viewers on MTV, whatever it is. They needed their thing. They needed the new kid on the block. And grunge, what a great tagline, what a great slogan, for this, to sell that whole thing. They created once again, guys, it wasn't an image. This is what these dudes wore. Same just like us. They were just wearing what they wore on stage, and then that became an image. The media turned that into an image until you saw, the grunge dude in the car commercial, and that's what happened. And
maybe because it also had a bad name, metal, by that point
it
as well.
Certainly did. Yeah, because people identified metal with the bigger hair bands, for sure. Of course, Metallica at that point was already big, but you gotta remember, in the early 90s, Iron Maiden wasn't what they were in the 80s anymore in the States, and they certainly hadn't come back like they have. So we didn't even have Maiden out there, being able to fly the flag. People just stopped giving a fuck. And it's so frustrating. I've asked myself the question so many times, is it just that almost 10 years had passed, a lot of people grew up, a lot of people got married, a lot of people had kids, they started working jobs. I was hearing it all the time. Yeah, I used to listen to you guys, I used to go to shows, I can't anymore, my wife and this and that, which always, to me, it's all bullshit excuses. It's like, why would you ever stop listening to what you listen to? I don't care if fuck it's jazz, pop, whatever you listen to. How do you stop listening to music because you got married or because you worked 9 to 5? Or it's insane to me. I don't get that, and I would call bullshit and all. I still get today. I used to listen to you guys in high school. I'm like, what do you mean you used to? Man, you fucking get older. I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't know, because you know what? I'm going to go home and put on Ride the Lightning right now. I'm going to get online and play poker and listen to Exodus or Pantera. So I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm older than you, and I don't get it, dude. You don't grow out of it. That's bullshit to me.
Thanks, buddy. That was awesome.